here. We made it. We have a very special guest with us today. Coming from beautiful Southern California, Miss Delisha Easley. Delisha, how are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
I'm very good. And welcome
Awesome.
to the Christopher Lafayette podcast show.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
The pleasure certainly is ours. Let's chop wood. Who's Delisha?
I love it. I thought you were going to do more of an intro. Who am I? I am a woman walking in my full purpose in every area of my life. Um, I am currently, as you said, in Inglewood, California, hailed from Atlanta, Georgia. So I represent always. That's my hometown. So if you have a Southern accent come out, that's where it comes from. And yeah, I'm new into FinTech and have had an interesting journey. We probably would talk about later on how I got here.
Audience listening, I know and I will assume that there's several of you that know what fintech is. But Delisha, let's assume that none of us know what it is. What is fintech?
Okay. Yeah. In the simplest form is basically FinTech is shortened for financial technology. So we use FinTech. You probably are using it right now every day. If you have an Apple Wallet, you're doing any type of online banking, all of that, making purchases, e-commerce, anything is under financial technology. So we're kind of all embracing it, um, voluntary and involuntary at this point.
And of this world of financial technology, what is the most important thing that we should know from your lens perspective?
For my lens, I think for our community as a whole, just anyone who's new to financial or new to technology, the main thing is being educated, using these tools to educate yourself, not telling you to go out and make investments or create a portfolio really quick, but just look and explore and begin to learn about these different technologies because as you know, the world is progressing and we are going no, if you want to or not, everyone has a smartphone now. You kind of have to have one. So you want to be familiar with what platforms are going to work best for you. So I would just say educate yourself as much as possible, as simple as Google and YouTube.
Indeed. And to our audience listening, fintech abides within the eco habitat that we often talk about, along with artificial intelligence, extended reality, centralized and metaversal spaces, or the common internet that we know as at the moment today. And fintech has a lot to do with what we call Web3. We won't touch too much on Web3 today. I'm going to switch just a little.
Okay.
How did you arrive to fintech?
Yeah. How did I arrive? So, in short, is one thing that I did want to mention is that and on this conversation, any young people that are listening, I'm assuming people are younger than me a lot in my spaces, but anyone that's listening, no matter how old you are, be very strategic about where you want to go in your next phase of life, even if that's a career change. And I say that because my background is in education. I was an educator for over 10 years, specifically special education and teaching English as a second language. So I've taught nationally and internationally. And also, I was a behavioral therapist. So I have a master's in psychology. So I'm very like, I was going by the book. This is what I want to do. This is what I plan to do. I wanted to be a teacher since I was a kid. And I did that. But I knew that wasn't all to me and there's other things I wanted to explore. Finances was very interesting to me. I was afforded the opportunity to get into financial technology through sales. That's one of the, if you're new to tech or interested in getting there and not wanting to go necessarily the coding path, sales, marketing, operations, those are ways that you can get in at an entry level. That's just a free tip. But that's kind of how I got here. My skills were acknowledged and seen by my leadership. And now I'm a project manager on the recruiting side. So overseeing recruiters and the talent acquisition. So I'm doing interviews now with software engineers and product developers. So
Brilliant, and I hope our audience is taking notes. Delisha, the author, who,
Mhm.
who is she?
The author. Um, so funny story. I was always an athlete, and in what was it, middle school, one of my teachers said, "Hey, do this assignment." Only thing I heard was extra credit, and I was down for it, right? So I did the extra credit. I actually won the literary writing contest out of my school. And I was like, wait a minute. I wasn't expecting this. So when you did that, you get awarded to go to the county or whatever, and then the next level. So that's when I first realized that I had kind of a gift, I guess, to write, and that people wanted to read what I was writing. Of course, I pushed that on the burner and was like, I don't care about writing, and moved on with my life. Fast forward, I submitted an article. I wanted to go for review to a lady who ended up becoming my mentor. And she's like, yeah, I think that's a great article, but I think there's more to your writing, and you probably should pursue it. So I did. And now we are what, 5 books later. Um, Here I have one book that was co-authored with some women of survival stories, and that was an Amazon bestseller. So I'm I'm an author as well. Like I said at the beginning, pursue everything that is placed within you. I feel like God's given us special gifts and talents, and we are in here on earth continuously, not only understanding them, but developing them. So that's the author.
And who does the author write for and to?
Mhm. I would say my target audience is mainly 18 to 34 is what my statistics have told me. The analytics have proven, but I wouldn't say women. It's more like 70% women and 30% men. And these are people who are just looking for more, and they want to actually feel like they're fulfilling a purpose every day, or aligning their career with their purpose. And that's something that I try to push. No matter what I'm talking about, it always comes out, because that's just who I am and that's in me. Like, I want to pull you to be better after you've spoken to me, however long or short, is that you're motivated, and not just motivated, but motivated to take action to the next step.
BIPOC.
Mhm.
We hear this acronym, we hear this terminology used in a multitude of different areas.
Mhm.
Bring us into this world. Teach us. Provide us with a teaching moment. Help us to understand what that means today.
Yeah. Um, I think the BIPOC community is getting a lot of focus now because of recent strategic changes that companies, even governments in certain states are taking action. We have like the Crown Act. I think it was recently in Oregon. They have initiated that. So all of these little things are coming together for us to have an opportune time as people of color, and from not from underrepresented populations, to take advantage of. In my mind, this is a time for you to be very strategic about where you want to go in your career, and take action. Um, One of my friends, they're a DEI director of a government place in Oregon, right? So they were telling me, like, you're a Black woman, you're hot right now. Because this is what people, they're looking for, diversity. And you constantly hear people say, well, there's a pipeline. It's really not a pipeline issue. It's more so of us getting ourselves in the pipeline. Meaning, um, I spoke to one of my friends about that. She's an HR specialist, about a lot of people that are in the BIPOC community don't take the initiative to redo their resume to match the job they're applying for. Simple things, networking properly. finding sponsors. A sponsor, and by a sponsor, I want to be really clear on what that means, is someone who will advocate for you when you're not in the room. Someone, find a sponsor where you work now. And even maybe where you want to work, you can find someone that's already there that could sponsor you. So they're either a decision maker or they can influence the person who makes the decision. Because, the age old saying is not about what you know, it's about who you know. And that still is very true, and is very true in every industry, really. But if you're wanting to be in an industry, especially where the percentage is very low of women, like less than 13% of women in fintech are people of color. So you got to align yourself properly, and you want to do that. I think another tip, I have so much to say about this. I'm trying to keep it low, but in sales, we always say ABC, right? Always be closing. And I think in this aspect, always be learning, always be in a position to learn. Go ask the questions that no one wants to ask, because you'll be remembered for that. You'll stand out for asking those questions that some people may think are dumb, or may think that, oh, you should know that if you're here, but literally half of the audience doesn't even know, right? So you want to take advantage of that. Um, and then another thing is to just define what staying on your grinds mean. Remain relevant. Don't lose that drive and that hunger to learn and to network with purpose. Like, so many people have networking events, and I live in LA, like there's always some ways. And I mean, I'm pretty sure for you too, in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, is like there's a networking event every week, right? And you can go numerous times, but why do you want to go? Like, what are you going for? Go with the purpose and make your mind up. I'm going to talk to 5 new people. I'm going to get their contact information. When I talk to them, I'm going to ask them 3 questions, or 1 or 2 questions. Have a plan. Don't just go out and get everyone's numbers and take pictures. Like, that's irrelevant. That's not going to help your career. Yeah. And I think the last tip would be take risk. Don't be afraid to take risks to succeed. By nature, I'm a conservative person. And I think even with financial background is like conservative in that, but I still take risks. And a risk may be something like starting to look for the career you want, starting to look for the career that aligns with your path, and leaving where you are for a future better outcome. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
In
That was a lot.
spades. And I've never heard it articulated as well as you have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go a little higher.
Okay.
Audience, we're going to go 40,000 up. We've become more virtual in the past 20 months than we have the past 20 years. The world of work has changed.
Hmm.
Remote distributed workforce, what seemed to be temporary has now become permanent fixtures in how we go about our daily business globally in the world of work, and finding us in a hybrid aesthetic
Hmm.
of peer to peer communication, transfer, and exchange of information and products and goods sold, much differently than what we've ever known. From your lens, with all the things that you do, at a 40,000 foot positioning, what does this new world of work look like for Delisha?
For me personally, is um, I would say instantly global. So everything, and that's just broadening your lens. I think because of my background, even from a young child, right? So my first mission trip was 12 years old. I went to Mexico. I was the first person in my immediate family to have a passport. So I grew up with a different view because I seen more of the world than my immediate family, right? And as we're growing in our world, as you said, we have access to people that are in the Ukraine or something. Like a meeting I had yesterday with someone from the Ukraine. Like, that's how we're so connected. We're more connected than what we think we are. And I think from looking up high, I can see how much closer I actually am to something that I'm reaching for. It's not as far as I think. That's for me personally. Does that answer your question? I don't know how other people would feel about that, but
We're connected, and you could meet a co-founder of your startup and never have met her or him and get funded and be met with success in today's virtual world. Switching gears,
mhm.
and let's stay 40,000 up. Women empowerment in the world of work. What does that intimately mean for you?
For me, I take it on as is a responsibility. And I say that because I feel like I know that I'm a leader, right? And a position, a title doesn't get you there. I feel like you have certain qualities, right? From when you're younger. I used to play sports, so I was a point guard. So I was leading the team per se, right? On the court. But as you get older and exposed to other things, those things that are second nature to you are qualities or what they call soft skills, right? That many people don't have or have to learn in order to get into leadership. So I think as women, we kind of can embrace our femininity and our nurturing, nurturing type of behaviors to be the leader that is needed, especially in today's world. And I could go very, deep into that with just mental issues, mental health issues that more companies are embracing. They need to play a role. They play a role in and how they need to help, as well as just the need for the embracing of wanting to have women in leadership. Like certain companies and organizations are looking for women, or trying to purposely be a part of women's functions and women's conferences so they can align themselves with progression. And that's for me, that's what it looks like.
Is it hard to be a teacher in America?
Yeah, I think it's hard to be a teacher anywhere, but yes, it's hard to be a teacher in America, to answer your question.
What has education meant for you in terms of teaching our young people? What impact has that had directly to you? What is the reward and the benefit of teaching?
Mm. For me, the reward is to see the progression of a person's life, and then to see a seed actually flourish. And by that, I mean these individuals, these little minds, my little angels, that's what I used to call my students. So they'd be like, my little angels, they go out and they flourish and they become, you don't know what they're going to become. But if you continue to listen to successful people's interviews and stories and read their books, it's always a teacher at some point, either in grade school or undergrad or their master's or professor, or someone that spoke life into them. So being a teacher is a very important role that unfortunately is not reflected in the way teachers are treated or paid or appreciated by our governmental system, and even by parents as well. So the reward for me is the children, and what you see comes out. And it may be years. Some kids you forget. I had a student who has reached out to me maybe 3 weeks ago that I taught in Venezuela that's progressing, and she's in Africa. And I'm just like, wow, you just don't know if you're making an impact, and then you don't know how you are. This was a student who wasn't fond of me as a teacher. She made it very clear. and and it was like her senior year and all this. So I knew, like, hey, you're going through a lot of life changes, whatever. So to receive a friend request from her to be connected as an adult was like, okay, I must have made some type of impact that you want to be reconnected and give me updates on your life. So that's the benefit overall that kept me going and keeps me continuing to educate young people.
And from teaching to FinTech, there's quite a dichotomy there to some degree of sales.
Mhm.
Why the change? And what has it meant for you to do when it comes to introducing the fundamentals of what you've learned as a teacher? Surely you've taken that with you on this next
Yeah.
step.
Yeah, one of my cousins always says that, like I was doing a red bio or something, and she's like, "You're always an educator. Like, don't. Why would you ever not say that? Like, you're educating people at different ages. You're continuing. It's just naturally in me. I'm not going to just explain something. I want to teach you and train you in it, and make sure you're able to, tell it back to me so I know that you have learned. But for me, the similarities all flow from for me planning to be a continued educator, right? I'm a leader. I'm going to continue to lead and educate people naturally what I'm doing in fintech. Um, in sales, it's the same thing with kids. Like kids don't really care what you're trying to teach them if they know that you don't care about them. And the same thing is in sales and in fintech. No one cares about what you're selling or what platform you have if you're not reflecting, hey, you're so important to us. So this is why we're implementing this. This is why we're changing this. This is why we're building this. It's all about the end user, right? So for me to transition into fintech, like I said before, was a strategic thing. I've been a teacher and I know how finances is not taught in most schools in America. I think it's only about 5 school districts who even have an alternative type of training or a class, an official class that you can take. So I was volunteering, teaching finances to students who were middle school, high school age, just starting off with simple stuff, savings, budget, and then progressing on to like investments, things they should do, et cetera. Um, so when I found out more about what fintech was, there's so many verticals. It's like, well, where can I fit and how can I get in? And then I happened to be offered this job and I was like, this is the way. I want to work with them because it's fintech, and specifically wanting to stay in financial technology. And then from there, figuring out how can I maximize my career path as well as continue to go with my mission of helping and teaching the next generation. So not only working, teaching them how to budget, but actually being on the other side and seeing things built like platforms like Stackwell and other companies who are building these platforms to actually let you invest, but also teaching you along the way so you know how to invest.
That's a lot.
That's a I know it was a lot. I can't make it concise. I don't know. You asked the question. So that's
We're going to talk more about this fintech for a moment. I'm not ready to leave that yet.
okay. I'm gonna drink some tea here.
Audience, we've been talking about fintech for those that are joining us now or have been with us. I do want to dab into a little bit of Web3. I do want to talk a little bit about blockchain and NFTs. Not directly specifically. We've been seeing a meteoric rise when it comes to non fungible tokens over this past year, 2021.
Mhm.
$2.5 billion raised in the first 2 quarters. Revenue at almost a 700% increase in Q3 alone. 2.5 billion, $12.5 billion. Financial transactions using Apple transactions, everything's just accelerated up. And people have been forced by way of this pandemic as a great disruptor to use their devices for fintech transactions. What do you see coming in the near pipeline of use cases for fintech that you don't think we readily see now? Is there anything that you may see coming down the pipeline in this vast emerging technology?
Um, I think it's already coming, right? Like I think that a lot of things are here. It's just not known by a lot of people. So as you mentioned, like the blockchain, the crypto currency, a while ago, no one wanted to deal with that. Now you have countries that are embracing it as, transactional and that you can do. My only concern more so, especially for America, is implementing regulations and safety measures surrounding it. That's a whole podcast, right? Like that is my that is what I think is coming down the pipeline and the concern and why so many people are embracing getting involved and doing something in fintech and doing blockchain, crypto, and all that. I don't want to go into specifics, but whatever it is, that's that's something that concerns me and I think is coming in a necessity to come down the pipeline because you don't want is going to be a whole nother legal thing. I mean, people take your I had this happen to me where my certain bank account was taken and it was like somebody in Russia. This was years ago. But the the reality of ever getting that back from them is zero to none, right? So it's just about if you have some type of protection and the bank you're with and all of that. So those are things that are coming down the pipeline that need to come probably quicker than not, but that's what I would say.
In our closing down, I have a few residual questions for you.
Mhm.
Let's talk about our black communities. With all these prolific emerging technologies that are happening right now, how do we keep from losing our communities of color, black and brown, indigenous? How do we keep from losing our communities of color from not being a part of this great opportunity that, from my lens, is absolutely necessary to have everyone that we can have to build this technology, or we haven't built on a strong enough foundation?
Is that a two-part question?
Three, if
I
you'd like.
feel I feel like I'm going to answer it backwards. So I don't think we have built a strong enough foundation. I think we're building. I think what we can do is everyone reach one, teach one, right? So like we all have a part to play and and it needs to be not just platform based. I think in our community, we are heavily followed by fame and whoever's saying whatever and if this person's associated with it. Oh, let me look into what NFTs are now that I know this certain rapper or something has one. Those type of things um, seem to be where we follow. And some people have used that to their advantage to try to get more people into Black owned banks and to sign up for these different platforms. But I think it just mainly is we have to talk, we have to communicate to whoever it is within our reach. The 10 people, they need to know the same thing about finances. The people and expanding it and then continuing to learn as a community and bring in people that may not look like us. If they know more than we do about something, then include them. Um, Educating yourself. So I think it's just it's the foundation has not been great because we kind of hoard information as a people. This is just my personal perspective, but we do that as a community a lot. And it's kind of like we want to show what we have, but you don't tell the journey. So yeah, we see your great house, but we don't know that you've been investing in real estate properties for the past 10 years and that's how you bought that house cash, but you don't say that part. You just show your nice car and the end result. We need to know the stories. And through platforms like what you have, people are telling the story, but we're also connecting. Um, I just recently took on a new mentee. And because she came to me, and I speak to people every day, as you know, in my job, but she came to me with very specific questions. She was ready. She was looking for a mentor, but didn't know how to ask for one. But I've been trained for my own mentors to just, if it feels right, if the synergies align, then go out and to make that quote unquote sacrifice and say, hey, every 2 weeks we can check in and have we have a strategic plan of what that looks like. That there's homework when we're done meeting, we talk about it again the next 2 weeks. Like we all have a part to play and we have to start today.
Everyone has a part to play and they must be allowed to play them. Quote from Downton Abbey.
Yes.
I have two final questions for you.
Okay.
We know that you're an author, we know that you have book distributions, and we want to know how we get in contact with you. But that's not my question.
Okay.
Give
So,
us a book. Give us a book
mhm.
that inspires you today.
I will give you a book that I am currently reading. Make sure I say the whole title correctly. That this is inspiring me. It's called Brag: The Art of Tooting Your Own Horn Without Blowing It by Peggy Klaus.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so that's a great book. I'm just started reading it, but it encouraged me and helped me with a conversation I had to have with my leadership yesterday that I was kind of nervous about. But brag, own it, be bold. Um, yeah, that.
My final question is this, and this is a little bit different that I ask generally with our guests, but I want to take a different approach to this because you've inspired me in such a very different way
Okay.
this session. And you've made the sales call. You've gone from education, the deep educated background,
Mhm.
to teaching in FinTech, in this world of sales on an emotional level.
Mhm.
What has it done for you lately?
On an emotional level, I would say it's okay. So let me start here. I think you being at peace with yourself and your life and where you are is one thing, and your work sometimes influences that. Um, and if you're at a stressful place that you don't want to work, and if something stressful goes on outside of that and something else, your whole world is like crashing, right? As you know, on a personal note, I won't share my information, but I've experienced a lot of grief this year and a lot of different emotions and transitions that all happened in a very fast, short time. Um, but I think because I am where I'm supposed to be and working with a team of people that care about me and not what I can do or provide for them only, it's more of a real team effort, that's helped keep me at peace and respectively, hey, Delisha, take these days off. And when I mean take them off, this is what my supervisor literally told me, like, do not respond to anyone's email about anything, even if it's something that seems important and that you're spearheading, like, I mean, disconnect. And we need people like that who care about us as people first and not um, our job or what we can do. Unfortunately, we a lot of times, even from a personal standpoint, we reflect who we are and how great we are based on where we work, and we shouldn't do that. So when you start just understanding your worth and who you are and being around a team that reinforces that for you, it keeps you at a centered mental space.
To our audience, you've just heard from Delisha Easley. Delisha, thank you for being our guest on the Christopher Lafayette Podcast Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I never answered your question. So my website is delishae.com. You can find anything there. You can find my social media. I am Delisha E on every platform. I have a new book, The Due Date, coming out, and I'm excited about that. And there you go. I did answer your questions, all of your questions.
You answered it better than I was hoping that you would deliver. Audience, it's rare, but it does happen where we have someone as candid, someone that I personally know, apart from the show, that takes some time to join us. And Delisha is one of the more candid people that I've come to appreciate as of late. And I'm so thankful that she answered a question the way that it was presented, with authenticity. To everyone
Good.
that's listening, we hope that you'll return with us again. Thank you for exploring in the woods, in the forest, on a mountain, in a park, in your homes, where we hope that you're keeping safe, happy,
Mhm.
and healthy. We certainly do hope to see you and hear you again at the Christopher Lafayette Podcast Show. Good night.
Good night.